Welcome to this recording of creating a workflow for an item master setup. This is part 4 in our series of workflows. So in this workflow example, the business requirement of this scenario is very common to companies running inventory. When items are created, there are usually multiple departments involved in establishing that item's the base setup, cost, and price. The typical setup requires this to be gathered initially before the item is created, but using workflow, we're going to show the possibility of creating the base item information and then sending notifications and links to cost and item pricing setup. Before Sabu takes over to do the workflow setup itself, I wanted to mention a couple of the building blocks he will be using to build a workflow. Every workflow needs business functions with the data elements to connect the information from the screen that it's going to be triggered from or use the data from and bring it with it along the entirety of the workflow's life. So there's two business functions that Sabu created, one with just the item, short item ID, and the second with other item additional information that he may want to use along the process of the workflow. And you'll see how he uses that when he builds it. The second thing he did ahead of time was create two notifications in the Notification Orchestrator Studio. One is a link to the P4115, and that's the item cost. The second is a link to P4106 item pricing. The logic extensions he's going to use to pull these things together. And that's what's going to be attached to the form extension button. And all of these objects you'll see that Sabu is working with are UDOs. So they are maintained in the user-defined objects workbench, and they can be promoted and managed via the OMW web because they are standard UDOs. And now you'll see Sabu show you the construction of a workflow from scratch.
Thank you, Kareem. So from Orchestrator home screen, we can click Workflows. Then click New. Place a name and description for the new workflow. Here I'm going to use update item. The next step, we need to add a key data which is already created. Here I am using the custom one, WF5541001A. Now this data structure have an item called short item number. Is data addition is item. The next step, I need to add the additional data. Here I'm going to use customer F5541001B. Select the item, then save the work. Then click diagram, it will take you to diagram. Here we can see two tasks, start and end. We need to drag and drop orchestrator between the start and end button. Now we need to provide a unique ID for the task. Then click the option button, edit button, select the notification and fetch for the previously created notification. Here I'm going to select P4105 application link notify. It will send a link to the item cost application. Then we need to map the corresponding field to the data structure. Close the screen. Connect the item cost to end. Save the work. Then we need to add another notifications between the item cost and the end. Drag and drop the second orchestrator. Then put a name, place a name for that orchestrator. It's going to be item price. Then click the edit option to select the corresponding notification. Click notification. Say for the second notification, which is P41006. Then do the mapping. Here I'm going to select the item, close it. So now you can see we added 2 notifications on the workflow. Save your work. Then do a validation. Make sure our mapping is correct. Next step, we need to release the reservation. Once you release the reservation, we need to make sure this workflow is ready and is active. So select from the manage button, click activate. At this point, we created the workflow and we activated it. Next step, we need to create a logic extension to start the workflow. Just go click the home button, go to logic extension icon, click new, put a name for the new logic extension to start the workflow. Next step, we need to add a data dictionary item to map to the following workflow. Click data dictionary, select the item, click find, add to the data dictionary. Now we can see we added new parameters for the logic extension that we can map to the workstation. Save the work. So here we can see the diagram and we can see 2 tasks, start and end. Click middle of this start and end button. Click workflow. Now we can search for the workflow we created previously. Select the workflow. Now we need to complete the mapping. Click the edit option. Then map the item between the workflow and the logic extension. Pause it. Save our work. And next step, we need to associate this logic extension to our corresponding application screen. Let's save the work one more time. Go back to JDE screen. Log into JDE. Using fast path, go to a corresponding application path. select the item we need to copy. Select the item, click copy. Click OK on next screen. Click OK on the category code. And next screen we can see additional system information. Here is the screen we are going to add associate the logic extension. So click the form extension. Click add button option and position the control to a specific location. Next we need to rename it. This is the button control. Now we are at the button to call the logic extensions. Click the associate option. Then select the control. Click the even button clicked. Then here we are going to add logic extension. So click logic extensions. Click next button. Here we can select the created logic extensions. So here it is start update item. Click next. Now we need to input the value to the logic extension. So what we are going to do is click here on the mapping input and map to the item where you want to map to the logic extension. Click next. Click next. Save. Close. At this point, we associate the logic extension to the new web button. Save our work. Close out from form extension. Now we can test this logic extension and workflow by clicking the button to trigger the logic extension. Click the watch to see any notification came through the notification option. Here we can see two notifications created. One is for item price and item cost. So let me click the item price. Here the application is going to open and we can see the item details here. Again, on the second notification, we are able to see the cost screen and with the item. At this point, we have built workflow, logic extension, and a form extension, and we tested successfully. Thank you.